when I was 10, I was diagnosed with brain cancer. So I had radiation. Radiation didn't work. I had chemotherapy. Chemotherapy didn't work either.
Do you remember being scared?
I was sad. I thought like as a kid, like you do something bad, you get punished. I was like, did I do something bad to deserve this? 10 years after I was diagnosed with cancer, I was in a really bad car accident. We were on the highway. I was sitting in the passenger seat. Immediately the car flipped. And every time the car hit the ground, I was hitting the ground. So my body slipped. The seatbelt cut me from here to here.
That first flip, what's the immediate thought that comes to your head?
The first thing that came to my head was, that's it, I'm dead. The seatbelt went through my spleen, my pancreas, my colon. It ripped one of the wings of my spine. My right leg was out of the window. My left leg was crushed underneath the seat, panicking.
Are you awake?
Yeah, I was awake. When she came, she told me, I thought you were dead, so I went and helped the other girl. After that, I couldn't remember anything until I woke up, which was about like 2 weeks after. So in those 2 weeks, I was actually having a lot of hallucinations. Family members of mine that has deceased, they showed up and they told me, come Sahar, it's time. There's no pain, there's no hardships, it's so beautiful. And then my aunts were telling me, no Sahar, it's not time. You still have purpose here.
I got goosebumps. Would you have told the 20-year-old Sahar not to get in that car?
That one...
Before we start today's episode, I just wanted to thank you for taking the time out of your day and giving this podcast to listen. And I also wanted to remind you that the only way this podcast will ever grow is with your support and with your help. So subscribe to the podcast, like this video, and now let's get the show started.
Welcome aboard Middle East Airlines.
والمتوجهة إلى
طيران الشرق الأوسط يرحب
مدينة القدس العربية.
Hey Sahar, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, good. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good. Thank you for coming. Sahar, I like to start this off with kind of like you introducing yourself. But I want you to introduce yourself the way you see yourself. So Sahar ta Sahar, who is that?
Well, I am a person who cares for others and has, I believe, has a purpose in this life. And I went through some obstacles, but I feel like it only made me stronger. And even though sometimes, you look in the mirror, you see the scars or the things that remind you of what happened. I'm try to be as thankful as can be. Try to just look at the positive outlook and try to help people however I can. Pursue my dreams. Just do things that make me happy. Because at the end of the day, it's not worth living on this earth and being sad all the time. So, yeah.
That's perfect. What better way to take a bad situation and turn it into a positive, right? So the podcast is called Not From Here because me and you aren't from here. But how did Sahar or Sahar's family make it to America?
So my dad, actually.
Okay.
My dad came here to this country when he was 16 years old. And, knowing only Arabic, he came from the village. And he came here 16, went to Fortson, and had to kind of adapt to the lifestyle over here, and lived on the east side of Dearborn as well.
What kind of special trait did you think coming from that background gave you?
Family. I feel like family is very important to us, and I feel like that's a blessing, to be honest, to always be there for each other. And I think that having that like family aspect and always being there for one another when needed and stuff like that is very important. And I love our culture, to be honest, and our religion, and I know we're crazy and loud, but it's in a loving way.
Yeah, of course. So I usually like to start from the childhood growing up, but you had something very hard happen to you very early in your childhood. You were 10, right? And I don't really remember much from when I was 10. So I'm curious to know, like, how much do you remember from that time?
So I do remember things, not obviously the whole thing, because again, you're young, and as the years go by, you start forgetting certain things.
Right.
But I think the most important parts, you remember them. Certain events, certain time frames, you remember them. based on what happened. You know, it's not your day-to-day activity. It's not like I'm going to school, coming back, doing my math homework. You know what I mean?
It's very
going
different.
to soccer practice. It's very different.
Yeah.
So I feel like because it's different, you remember them, but not, you know.
Where does the timeline of that story start in your head?
So it started when I was getting weak.
Okay.
So just to say it, so no confusion. When I was 10, I was diagnosed with brain cancer. And what started me remembering the process. So I wasn't diagnosed right away. In the beginning, I was just getting weak. So the tumor was on the left side and affected the right side of my body. So what first started was my arm. So I was getting weak, doctor to doctor. No one really knew what was happening.
Weak as in like you can't move your arm, or like you can't carry stuff with your arm?
So weak, like the muscle. So I didn't have that like ability to open my hand, to move it, even to hold things. The fine tuning with the fingers that was getting, that wasn't, you know, the same thing as my left hand. And it just kept on getting worse. So it started and then it just kept on escalating up and getting worse. And then it went from my arm, my entire arm, to my leg. And then that started getting weak as well. Doctor, no one really knew what the cause was.
Nothing was nothing?
Nope. So finally, one doctor said, let's do an MRI.
So how long do you go to doctors before the doctor says MRI?
Over a month. Like I remember,
Really?
I remember November, I was going to the hospital and just trying to check out. I'm going to different types of specialties and trying to see what the problem was. But when I was diagnosed was at the end of December, mid-end of December kind of thing. So it took until one of the doctors, so he actually thought, he didn't think it was cancer. He just thought that there might be some like a problem in the brain, that it didn't show up because I was still growing, right?
Yeah.
So I was 10, so I was still growing. And now it kind of like, we've seen the effect as you reach this certain age.
Yeah.
So he did an MRI. MRI came out. There's nothing wrong with my brain. There's just a tumor sitting in there, like the size of a golf ball sitting, and kind of like, they call it the thalamus.
Yeah.
So it's kind of deep in the brain.
Yeah.
So they said it's cancerous, so they needed to do surgery.
At 10 years old, you don't understand though what cancer is, right?
Yeah. So like the thing is, and also too is that, remember, because you're a child, you don't see the things as you see an adult.
Right.
So because of that, I was a little bit confused. I was, trying to understand, like, what is this? Like, what does this mean? You know what I mean? I like, though, that the hospital system doesn't really have to tell you all the details as a child, because that just, like,
it scares you for no
scares
reason.
you. Yeah, for no reason. Like, I don't know anything about this. So when it comes to, like, them not telling me everything, I like that personally. Some people might not. I did. But when I found out that, okay, I had the cancer, and I'm going to have surgery, they were like, you stop eating, stop drinking. And that next day, I had my surgery.
Oh, it was next day surgery?
Next day.
What about your parents? Do you remember anything at all from like how they received the information?
So,
because like you said, children and adults, they receive this kind of information
absolutely.
very differently. So now we're grown-ups. If someone tells me a 10-year-old has cancer, my heart is gonna fall. The other day, I woke up feeling terrible. I had food poisoning and I felt like a mess. Whoop actually showed me how bad of a night I had and what I was supposed to do and how much I was supposed to do that day in order to wake up the second day feeling fully recovered. I did that and woke up feeling great. I feel like fitness trackers should tell you how much to push or pull and how well recovered you are. Whoop shows you all the metrics that you need to stay high performing every single day. So here's the deal. Try Whoop out for 30 days for free. And if you don't like it, send it back. That simple. Go to join.whoop.com/notfromhere to get started today. And now, back to the show.
Yeah, and that's literally, my parents were shocked. They did not know that. They knew I was getting weak, but not to the extent of like having brain cancer. And the fact that, like, okay, I have to have surgery, that next day. So it was a shock on them. It was a shock on, and again, because we're very like, it's not just my immediate family, my
Of course,
family,
like extended family
too, and they were prepping me for surgery. And I just, when they put you to sleep, it's like you're out and then you wake up and you're like, that sense of time, like it doesn't exist. So when I woke up, I remember I had a tube coming out for drainage, and I was patched up. They shaved my head from here, so I had a nice like a little bald spot there, so they can cut. And I was in the ICU.
Do you remember being scared?
I was scared, but subhanallah, I'm gonna say this. At times like this, prayer and reciting Quran and everything like that. And my dad, he was holding the Quran, and he kind of just closed his eyes and opened to an ayah, and the ayah meant the surah, on that page, everything's gonna be okay. So that right there kind of gave us all like that more hope, because like he opened it, and it's like literally God himself telling us everything's gonna be okay. And alhamdulillah, everything was okay. Obviously there were setbacks from that surgery. He went, going in, you're touching other stuff, and so it caused more weakness. But at the end of the day, they had to do what they had to do.
What do you what kind of immediate changes happens to the way you lived your life after the tumor? So after they removed the tumor, everything was fine?
No.
Okay.
So they could have removed the entire tumor out. Okay. So there were still parts of the tumor in, and so they couldn't go in because it was too deep in, and they don't want to cause paralysis. So I had radiation. Radiation didn't work. I had chemotherapy. Chemotherapy didn't work either. And then, so one of my doctors actually told us that, at this, we really can't do much. The radiation didn't work. The chemo didn't work. We can't really do surgery either, because, we don't want to, cause paralysis or any other problems. So right now we leave the rest to God. And that's what he told us.
Really?
Yeah. And the nice thing is, like, having that belief and that, like, and that hope, and that knowing that he knows what's best for me, right? He knows what's best for all of us. And even though it's hard to comprehend and hard to absorb, but at the end of the day, he brought us onto this earth, and, he can take us away, you know what I mean? Whenever. And we don't have that ability, right? We can't say, oh, I don't want to be born this year. I want to be born 20 years later. You know what I mean? So that's what happened. So fast forward.
So you guys just left it. You were like, we're just going to leave.
So I was still monitoring. So you always have to stay monitoring. So every month, or, go check your MRIs, check everything, make sure everything is good. As long as it's not growing bigger, we're good. You know what I mean? Because it's not gonna harm me even more. You know what I mean? It's not gonna. So it's, as long as it's not growing, so
it would be fine if it just didn't grow.
So like, it's not, obviously it's not good having it there, but because it's cancer, it can metastasize.
Right.
The good thing is, though, if I might be mistaken on this, I'm not a doctor or anything, but in the brain, it's harder to metastasize into the entire body, just because it's kind of like its own separate area, essentially. But so kept on monitoring, kept on, obviously, if there's, there's always things evolving, things changing, if there's anything like that. But at that time, I was just continuously going, just monitoring everything, checking up on everything, making sure, nothing is going wrong or anything. But past couple months later, they had another MRI. They realized that there was fluid in the brain, and the brain has expanded, and they had to go in and take the fluid out. If the brain expands too much and it touches the skull, you're, brain dead. So when they went in, they realized, though, you think of it, it's a negative thing,
another procedure.
Yes, another surgery, another brain surgery, going through that process all over again. But when they went in, they realized, because there was fluid, and because it expanded, there was room now between like the vessels or whatever you want to call them,
the curvature.
the curvature. And so the surgeon had room to go in and scrape the rest of the tumor out.
Wow.
Yeah. So what initially, like, your first like thought process, like, oh my God, this is horrible, you know, another brain surgery. And like, it took time to heal after that brain surgery. You know what I mean? It took time to heal, and, you know, and to just get back up on your feet and everything. And now I'm going to have to go through that whole process all over again. But subhanallah, what was looked at as, you know, a horrible thing came out to be a positive thing.
And he just scooped the rest of the tumor out.
Yep, he scooped it all out. The problem was, though, because again, he went in and he, you know, he's in the brain. It did cause me to get weaker, but alhamdulillah, after that, I was
weaker. Are we still
cancer-free.
talking just the right side of your body?
Yes, just the right side of my body. Alhamdulillah, the left side was fully intact, no problem there. But for the left side, I did get weaker. It's because like those signals to the brain, right, from the brain telling the arm, your hand, open your eyes, your hand telling, you know, take your finger out, you know, bend your leg, whatever. Like I couldn't, like I can't even explain it. Like, you just can't do it. Like the signal to your brain, if I tell my brain right now, open my hand is not opening.
No way.
Yeah. Like, I'm literally like, I'll open. This hand does not open. This hand will open fine. So I did get weaker, but alhamdulillah, since that second surgery, you know, I was cancer free. The tumor never came back, cause he was able to remove it all. And what was set to be, you know, a negative came out to be a positive.
Wow, subhanallah. What about the lifestyle change that happens?
So it was a big curve. So I was a kid. I was playing soccer. You know, I loved just, you know, running and doing all these things. And now I couldn't do that anymore. I could run, but only for a very short period of time. My hand, I couldn't really do much. I used to be right-handed. I had to learn how to write with my left hand.
Do you write with your left hand now?
Yeah, now I'm left-handed. So it's just, it was a big change, but you adapt. And it's
so no soccer.
No soccer. No more soccer.
No more writing with your right hand.
No more writing with my right hand. I had to take, when I was going through the treatment and everything like that, I had to take time off of school. I was in middle school at that time. I'd take off of school. But so I was thankful that at least when I got better, I could go back to school now. Yeah. You know.
Do your teachers kind of understand? They're in the loop.
Yes.
They're taking that, of course, everything's into consideration.
Yep, of course. So like, it's, even though I wasn't going to school, it wasn't like there was like no school. Like there was like kind of like a home teacher. She would come and she worked with the school, so they would like give her like, you know, what's needed to get done. This is what Sahar needs. Yes, exactly. This is the assignments. This is what we're learning. Yeah. So there's no, you know, so I don't fall behind. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, I don't want to skip, you know,
of course,
have to retake a whole other year.
Of course.
So alhamdulillah, I didn't have to do that.
And Sahar, when stuff like this happens, like stuff of this magnitude, you know, brain cancer isn't something like just like a regular thing that happens to the average person. I guess you mature quickly, way more, way faster than your classmate in school. How do you start approaching as you get older, as you start realizing like the severity of what you went through? Because like we said, maybe at 10 you don't know how serious it is, but as you get older, as you mature more, you understand like this isn't normal. Like this was insane. Like what just happened to me like a few years ago. So how does that kind of translate into your day-to-day life?
So it was a big change. And it was frustrating because sometimes you want to do something and you can't do it. And not because, you know, you don't want to. It's just you physically, you can't do it.
What are the biggest things that you wanted to do that you couldn't?
So I did love playing soccer. I loved doing certain things like riding a bike, like certain things that like, you know, you want to do with all of your friends that can't do anymore. I used to love rollerblading too. You know, I couldn't do that anymore. And also like right when I was, when I was first diagnosed, because I was my platelets and, you know, everything, like you can't just eat anything. You can't just, you know, go anywhere. You have to be precautious because your immune system can't fight it. Like, you know, you're normal on a normal day. So it like I couldn't do the activities and the things that I wanted to do as a child, right? You couldn't go to the like and interact with your friends and your, you know what I mean, your relatives like you could before. And it's frustrating because it's not like you did the doing, you know, for causing, you know, you not being able to do this or that. It's something that happened to you, and you know, you just had to find a way to, you know, to
go
overpass
through it, yeah.
Yeah, to go through and overpass it.
And you get kind of used to it, right?
yeah,
As it
yeah.
goes, like, oh, cause this stuff I can't do, this stuff, okay.
But the thing that frustrated me the most is when somebody used to tell me, no, you can't do that. That's the thing that used to drive me crazy.
When someone told you no,
I can't do that. And it's not like things that like, oh, like you can't, like,
give me an example.
Like for example, what happened? Like, oh, you can't go to the amusement park, for example, you know, because of this. Or, oh, you can't go swim because of that. Or, oh, you can't go with them, you know, because you're not gonna keep track. And that's a thing that used to, you know, frustrate me the most. But that's also the thing that kept me going and kept me driving, you know, because when you told me I can't, I'm gonna tell you, watch me. I can, you know. When in high school I ended up joining the rowing team. So I used to row. Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
And you were allowed to?
Yeah, not like row your boat, like you know.
Yeah.
Like, and we used to in the Detroit River, and we used to go to Wyandotte too, and people tell me, how are you gonna do that? You need two hands. I was able to do it with one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so having those kind of negativity, I try to transition them into the opposite. Like, okay, you're telling me I can't do it. Okay, I'm not going to tell you I can. I'm going to show you I can, you know? And the best feeling is when you are able to do this and you'll show them that you told me I can't.
And look, I'm doing it right now.
I'm doing it right now. Just because someone has weakness, just because someone has a disability, it doesn't mean that they can't do, you know, the things that other people can do. So it's sad that sometimes that's how it's seen. It's sad that sometimes that's how, you know, other people come and, you know, they like tell you that and enforce it, and you're like, you can't do that. And it's like, I know that you don't, you know, you're not going through, like, you don't have, you know,
like you don't understand what I'm going through.
It's not even you don't understand. I know that you don't have that physical disability, you know what I mean? Or you don't have this thing you have to deal with, but I know how to deal with it, and I know how to surpass it, and I know how to live my life with it. I'm not gonna let that stop me from doing the things I love. I'm not gonna let that stop me from accomplishing the goals that I want to, and I'm not gonna let that stop me reaching to my certain potential. So the fact that when people used to tell me, yeah, it was frustrating, yeah, it was hurtful, but it just like wired me up that I'm like,
it fueled you,
you know. Yes, watch me, and alhamdulillah, you know, I was capable to do a lot more things after that. And I know as a kid, you know, you're a child, you don't, you know, and it's not at that time that it was fun. It was when I was growing older, and it's like, you know,
you start like
I'm
growing
16,
up to
17, like I know what I'm capable of doing you know. It's not like you're a 3-year-old and it's like, oh, I want to drive a car. It's like, no, you can't drive a, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, it was frustrating, but I was able to do it, you know?
Do you kind of like look for things that need two hands and be like, let me see if I can do them with one?
Yeah. So like you end up, so here's the thing. People think that if
like
someone,
I'm saying, like, you finding your limit, like really how much can I do, you know? Like, okay, like I'm saying this because photography, we're about to talk about how you went into photography, but this is just one thing that you do. It's most of the times you do need two hands to make sure the camera's not shaky, to get the perfect shot, all this stuff. Like, very rarely would anyone take a picture with one hand, but here you are, you started a whole business out of just taking a shot with one hand. So I'm saying, like, did you ever think about the stuff that needed two hands to do, and be like, you know what, let me see how far I can push my limits?
Yeah, so I tried my best to do what I could. I tried my best to manipulate it, right? To kind of see what other resources I can use to help me. And even though you might do this with your finger, I might do it with my elbow, for example. You know what I mean? Trying ways to find it. Unfortunately, not everything is going to work. You know what I mean? Some things I just can't do it. But alhamdulillah, I can say that I can do so much more than what I can't do, you know? And it takes time, you know, just like it took me time to learn how to write. When I was a kid, you know, we used to play the games, all right, with your other hand, and everyone, you know, writes, can't even connect the letters together. You know what I mean? So it takes time. It's not like it's like a, you know, 2 seconds and okay, we're good to go.
No, it's a process,
It's a process. It takes time. And just like a kid, just like a child that wants to learn how to walk, how many times does that kid fall on the floor, right? But he doesn't give up, right? That baby doesn't give up.
Right.
Falls on the floor, gets back up. Falls on the floor, gets back up. Falls on the floor, gets back up. And that's the thing. So as many times that I'd fall, I'd get back up. And ironically, like, that's the thing, me physically, if I fall, I won't let anyone help me. Like, haram, people are always like, you know, rushing to help. But I want to pick myself up so that I'm able to pick myself up in the future. So it's not like just like physically, it's mentally too.
Yeah.
It's emotionally too. You know what I mean? It's psychological. It's like, it's a bunch of different factors. So anytime I fall down, I'm going to say I can still pick myself up and I can still do what I need to do. And I can still, you know what I mean? Get back up and walk. So,
You're pumping me up. How do you get into photography?
So actually, there was something else that happened between the photography and the
really?
cancer. Yeah. So I was in a really bad car accident. So 10 years after I was diagnosed with cancer, and, you know, the weakness, I still had the weakness. I was still going, you know, I went to physical therapy and occupational therapy, you know, to you know, continuously like moving and everything. But 10 years.
10 years, that's.
So I was 20.
You were 20.
Yep. I turned 20 in the hospital that year.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, what were you, before the car accident, what were you planning to do in school? Like, so what I'm saying is, growing up, okay, you're in that middle phase where this just shows what you just said is how mature you got. Like, this solid mentality, like, this is something that's developing as you're growing. And now you're starting to get to your late teens, and now you want to figure out what you want to do later in life.
Yeah.
So high school, you're starting to get close to going into college. What are you thinking about doing with your life? Because now you have the solid mentality of, no, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to, whatever people say I can't do, I am going to do. What are you thinking of doing later on?
So I did have to grow up quicker than others. You know, just, you know, with the situation, after high school, so I wanted to help people, right? During high school, I loved volunteering. I got to go to Haiti, build a school for them. I loved volunteering at the Jamia. I loved just giving my time, you know, to help in any way, you know.
Did you think that was your purpose?
So I wanted to help someone. So
Okay.
it didn't have to be, it wasn't like my purpose. I just loved helping others, just because like when you're going through stuff like this, people are always helping you,
Right.
and kind of give back. And I did want to be a doctor. I did want to help heal people, right? So when I started as a bio major. That was my vision. I want to go to med school, you know what I mean? And be a doctor of some sort to help people.
Yep.
I started, I was 2 years in, and my major was bio, taking all the chem classes and the bio classes and, you know, and all that stuff. And then the accident happened. Me and my friend, we were going to Ann Arbor. She made the wrong turn and the car flipped.
Can you walk me through that day, beginning to end?
Yeah. So we were actually going to see one of my friends that was in Ann Arbor. And, you know, just on the road, I think what happened was we were on the highway and you're kind of like going up, and you can't really see the car in front of you in the beginning. So when she went up and she realized that, oh shoot, there's a car in front of me, she immediately swerved to the right. I'm sitting in the passenger seat. It's like an SUV, right? So it's not a car, so it's low. So immediately the car flipped. And every time the car hit the ground, I was hitting the ground because I was in the passenger seat. So she was up in the air and she held the steering wheel. I didn't have a steering wheel. So my body slipped. Okay. The seatbelt cut me from here to here. And my right leg, so it kept on flipping. We landed. So we were in the middle lane. We landed in the, what do they call that spot that's next to the,
Right next to the road?
yeah, it's like, it's not a lane anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
We stopped there. Thankfully, we stopped where like the tires were on the ground and not in the air. I remember when that first flip happened, the first thing that came to my head was, that's it. I'm dead. There's no way I'm going to survive this. And I felt the most painful thing. I've had brain surgery and it hurt more than brain surgery. Like it hurt more than when I came out of that surgery with the pressure on my head and in the tube. And like, it was just excruciating pain. The seatbelt went through my spleen. It went through my pancreas, my colon. It ripped one of the wings of my spine and went all the way in there. And
From all that pressure.
from all the pressure. And even at the hospital, they told me we've never seen a seatbelt, an accident with the seatbelt like that. And subhanAllah, before that though, I was thinking of wearing my flats. Okay. I was like, you know what? No, let me wear my boots, rubber boots. Okay. I was wearing rubber boots and my ankle broke. What would have happened if I still was wearing my flats? I don't even know what would have happened to my feet. But the seatbelt cut me in, and then when the car landed, my right leg was out of the window. I broke my knee and I tore all my ligaments, and then my left leg was crushed underneath the seat. So that one, my femur, I broke, and I broke my ankle. And I remember stopping, and smoke is everywhere. She's panicking.
Are you awake?
Yeah, I was awake. I could feel, but the thing is, you know, like subhanAllah, when they say the body, I didn't feel any pain in my legs. The pain was all in my stomach. And the doctor was like, yes, like the brain shuts certain areas, yeah, because it's trying to what do we do here? Let's focus about that part later. What do we do here? We need the organs need to be intact more than the feet. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know. Maybe
Goes into survival mode.
Yeah,
like this
exactly.
is more important.
This is more important. So I remember we stopped. There was smoke everywhere. The airbags were out. She was panicking, and I had a hard time breathing because, again, I was slouched more in, and the seatbelt was in me. Thankfully, people came and helped. One of the ladies, when she came, she told me, I thought you were dead, so I went and helped the other girl. So basically what happened was after I was awake for a little bit, then I couldn't see, but I could hear, and I could still, and then after that, I just knocked out. Thankfully, a doctor stopped by and a nurse also. And the doctor,
on the road?
Yeah, like roadside, whatever. And he reclined my seat so I could breathe better. And then they were there until the ambulance came. And when the ambulance came, I felt them carrying me out of the car. I felt them, I felt the knife
cut through the seatbelt?
Cutting through my pants and my shoes.
Yeah.
And at that time, after that, I couldn't remember anything until I woke up, which was about 2 weeks after.
You woke up 2 weeks after?
So there were so many problems happening and so many things they had to fix that I couldn't be I wasn't aware of my surroundings. So I was awake, but I didn't know I was awake, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because when I got there, I remember the surgeon, he told me, we had to take you right away in. They didn't wait for my parents. They took me right away in to, fix the problem of the organs. Because when they found me, my organs were literally like
outside of your body.
Outside. Like I have a picture and I can see my intestines. It was literally all showing because it literally ripped from end to end. So everything, like, it flipped forward. And then you can see all of that area.
Wow. Like, I don't even know where to start. So the car flips, and in that time, that first flip, what's the immediate thought that comes to your head?
Literally, I thought I was dead. I was like, that's it, I'm dead. There's no way I'm gonna live after this. But the thing is, like, how quickly does a car flip?
What's the, like, how does time move then?
So slow. That's exactly what I say. The car flips so quickly.
Very quickly.
But I was literally like, it was like,
you were feeling it.
I was feeling everything. I saw the floor underneath me, like the street. And everything was happening in like slow motion. And the pain was excruciating. And I felt like I felt the pain longer than I actually did. It took like the process until we landed. Everything happened so slow. And I thought, I'm like, that's it. There's no way I'm going to be alive. Like,
yeah, like you're sitting in the middle of the highway now, and you said you smelled the smoke, you felt the smoke.
I felt
your
the
friend wasn't
seatbelt.
saying anything.
She was panicking. I think she wasn't. The thing is too is that
she wasn't as badly hurt.
she dislocated her arm, her shoulder, or something like that. But because she held on the steering wheel, that helped her. And also, I think they say like something like the driver, even though it's seconds, it's literally seconds, they know the accident's gonna happen before the other people do. I wasn't even looking in front of me.
Okay.
Like, I don't know what.
I caught you by surprise.
Like, so it, like, I wasn't even like looking at the cars to notice that, oh shoot, there's gonna be an accident in a second. So I feel like they kind of brace yourself, like get ready for it. Me, I didn't know, like 2 seconds.
Your organs are out of your body.
Like, literally. So it's like I had no time to get ready for it. I had no time, anything like that. And it was just a couple seconds, and then we landed on the side of the road.
And then when you realize that you didn't die and you're still alive, do you also get to think? Do you also get to like process some of the stuff, or like is it just like a blur? Like there's so much pain that I can't even think.
So for the first 2 weeks, when they were like
I'm talking accident, like still
accident?
at the highway.
Oh, still at the highway. Sorry. So I was awake for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then.
But you don't get to process, like think of anything.
No,
You're just in
I
pain.
was just in pain. I was like, I was just trying to breathe. Literally, that's what my biggest concern was, trying to breathe.
Did it feel like a long time until the ambulance came?
No, because I knocked out. I think that's why.
Okay.
That's why it's like I wasn't, because when I was out, I wasn't like realizing the time.
Yeah.
If that made any sense. But because in the like, it wasn't a long time until I just was out. So it was like a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
So that's why I didn't like realize it.
Yep.
I was just trying to tell myself, breathe, 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 breathe. Because if you don't breathe,
You're out.
you know what I mean? So
now 2 weeks pass. You're finally back.
So in those 2 weeks, I was actually having a lot of hallucinations. A lot of hallucinations.
What kinds of hallucinations?
So many different hallucinations, but for some reason, every hallucination, it's so weird because it related to what was happening currently within the hospital. So people that I was seeing in those hallucinations, okay, my family members, I obviously know how they look, right? But other people, I never seen them before in my life. Who are those people? The doctors, the nurses, those people. But they weren't dressed as doctors and nurses. They were just, regular. And in one of my hallucinations, and this one was the one that like, I remember it, you know, to the detail, was when we were volunteering at a farmhouse. All of my family members were volunteering at this farmhouse. And digging in the ground, like literally digging in the mud. And then the clouds separate, an array of light comes down in between. And I looked up and I'm like, okay, that's it. This world is done. And I went up to the farmhouse, to the attic in the farmhouse. And as I'm sitting there, family members of mine that has deceased, they showed up. And they told me, come, Sahar, it's time. And then who comes behind me? My aunts. And
Alive or deceased?
no, they were alive. So they
Okay.
followed me up into the farmhouse.
Yeah.
But the people that weren't volunteering,
Yeah.
those were all deceased people. And they were really like standing and sitting in the attic with
Yeah.
me. And they were like, come, Sahar, it's time. They're like, my uncle specifically, Allah yarhamu, he was telling me, it's so much better here. There's no pain. There's no hardships. It's so beautiful. You're going to, like, it's time for you to come and join us. And then my aunts were telling me, no, Sahar, it's not time. It's not time for you. You still have a purpose here. You still, you know, you still need to stay here for
I got
more.
goosebumps.
So I gave him my hand. When I gave him my hand, my body started like forming into them because they looked different than my aunts, than how we look as like physical human beings. And I was like forming into them. Then I was thinking about it and I was like, no, Khal, no, like I still need to do something in this world. It's not time for me yet. And I took my hand back. When I took my hand back, part of me though was like kind of still like has formed into them. And my aunts were like, there were doctors at the area too. Let me find a doctor. They'll come and they'll help you. And this is kind of like, it goes to kind of how all of my hallucinations was, I was cut. Something like cut me.
Yeah.
And it made sense. Why? Because of my cut.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of times, right, in my other hallucinations, I was trying to get up and everyone would push me back. No, you can't get up. Why? Because my organs was, they couldn't just sew it all together.
Yeah.
Because I lost so much areas that fluid was going in. So they had to leave them open and heal from the out in.
Yeah.
So because of that, right, anytime I try to come up, they'd push me down. So basically back to that is that when the surgeon came up, okay, so she cut me, but when she cut me away from it, like it cut me as well.
Yeah.
And then they had to take me to the hospital. So why when I woke up, I was like, those weren't hallucinations, those are real life.
Yeah.
Is because at the end of every single hallucinations, I was caught, right? And I couldn't get up and I was at the hospital. So when I woke up, I seen my parents above me and they were telling me, you know, Sahar, you're in the hospital, you were in a car accident. I was like, okay, so like all this hallucination, like it makes sense now.
Yeah.
But like little did I know that was like, obviously those were not true events because hallucinations, you feel the pain. When I was cut,
So when you were getting
felt
cut
it.
in the hallucinations, you were feeling it.
I felt the
like,
pain.
Yeah.
Like dream, you don't feel like when
Yeah.
I was hallucinating, like I felt pain, you know? And like I was like subhanallah, like literally I was digging into the ground and then a ray of light comes and it's like, you know, that's it, the world's over.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's like the next, you know, step. It's like, you know, I don't know, I had a lot of other ones, but that one I will never forget.
Why?
I don't know. It's just because I think it was very, I think it was the longest one, honestly. The other ones were a lot shorter. Also, I think it made, I think I think I felt it the most, if that makes any sense. Like, I feel like I was really
Like
living
you were in
it,
Yeah.
Amongst the rest of them.
So you wake up, your parents are on top of you. They tell you, Sahar, you got in a car accident. And this is 2 weeks after.
Yeah, about 2 weeks after, when I was like fully aware kind of my surroundings.
Did it take you a while to kind of be able to speak to them, or
I couldn't
after?
speak. I had a tube down my throat.
Okay.
Yeah. So I couldn't speak. I had a tube down my throat. I had external fixation on my right leg because of my knee, because I tore all my ligaments.
Yeah.
I had a cast on my other leg because I broke my ankle and my femur. I was sitting and I had patches over, just so, and I had also tubes, so any fluid drains outward. And then I had the tube down my throat. I couldn't speak.
So we're kind of just awake, but
I was awake and I could see and then at that point, after those 2 weeks, I was fully aware of everything.
yeah.
My eyes were bloodshot red. And
Your parents probably got very happy after those 2 weeks when they finally saw you awake.
like, the thing is, like, alhamdulillah, like, I was alive. I was just not with them.
Yeah.
I think I was just on so many medications that I was just out, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like, but they kept on, like, surgeries were, it's not like one surgery and that's it.
No,
They
of
had
course.
to go in, fix what's most important, get out, then come back, fix this. Like, it was just continuous.
And the organs thing was the biggest deal.
Yeah, so I ended
Are
up...
your organs okay right now?
So I ended up losing, so I don't have a spleen. My pancreas was cut in half. Part of my colon was removed. I did break like one of my rib cages, and but alhamdulillah, majority of them are intact. They had to keep a shunt in there just to keep the pancreas together until it finally like reformed together. But subhanallah, when you say like God can do literally anything. I was at the doctors not too long ago, and they told me I have a baby spleen now. They're like, we don't know how it came, but it just came up. Never had a spleen, but now I have a baby spleen. They're like, it doesn't really do much, but it's like, I don't know. I just think it's like so fascinating.
How do you feel when you hear stuff like that, or when you realize stuff like that?
In the beginning, I was sad. I thought like as a kid, like, you do something bad, you get punished. I was like, did I do something bad to deserve this? At that age, I was 10, I was young. But I think kind of as I grew older, I realized that it wasn't bad. It was a blessing. If I tell you, Sahar, would you rather have, you didn't have cancer? I'd be like, no, I'm happy I got it, because it changed my perspective of life. It really did. And the things that I gained out of this trumps all of the bad. And, so sometimes bad things aren't bad things. You might think they're bad things, but he knows what's right, and he knows what's good for you. And he knows what's the best, the best is for you. But in the accident, after, I was there for about 3 months.
In the hospital?
Yeah, 3-4 months, honestly. So we had to...
How long ago was this?
So this was, it was 2016. 2016, sorry. 2006 was the cancer. 2016 was the accident. It was in March of 2016.
So just about 8 years.
Yeah. So the thing is, though, now I know I not only have to see the cancer, it got me weak on the right side, right? But the accident pushed me back even further, right? I was in the state of I couldn't even sit up. Like if I'm laying, I couldn't even sit up. I don't have an abdominal.
That's 3 months after you're talking about. what you're explaining
That's
right now,
within the 3 months.
within the
3 months,
Okay,
because
got
like
it.
so obviously they're not gonna let you leave the hospital until you get some motion going on. You
Of
know what I
course.
mean? So,
Was
af-
the physical therapy happening kind of in
yes,
that period?
exactly.
Okay, got
It's
it.
within the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So after eventually healing, and you know the holes, they didn't close up, but they were closing. But I just had to kind of have like, just like patches and gauze just to make sure, nothing, because you don't want to cause any infections or anything like that. But at that time, and when they finally took out, the tube, obviously I had to learn how to speak because I didn't have a voice.
Really?
They were going to give me a trach because my oxygen level wasn't where it's supposed to be needed for them to take it out. I needed help breathing, essentially. So they were going to give me a trach, and I was begging, please don't. And so finally, when they were able to take it out, I couldn't speak. I mean, in the beginning, to communicate, I would write on a piece of paper. And the thing is, they could barely read because I can't even see what I'm writing. I'm laying like this, and trying to write on a piece of paper, and I can't speak. So after that, and I was, healing, getting better. And then, gradually just,
Getting better.
getting
in the
better,
hospital, yeah.
getting the surgeries, healing in certain areas. I then had to start learning how to sit up. Just sit. Okay? After I learned how to sit up, but put your feet down. The blood, like my feet weren't used to this. It was like, just laying down the entire time. So my feet would be pulsating, right? And I'd be like
This
and
is so
so
weird.
much, like it hurts to sit. Literally, it hurts to sit, and after that, stand up, Sahar. After that,
It kind of takes
like,
you back to the right side not working, Sahar, right?
Yeah, but the problem is it took me even further back. Alhamdulillah, after the cancer, I could get up and walk fine. You know what I mean? Like, no problem. At that time, I couldn't even like sit. So after that, then it's like, okay, you're standing now. Start
Take a first step.
learning how. Exactly. It's like a baby all over again. And it wasn't just me walking by myself.
Did you get frustrated during that time?
Oh yeah, you get frustrated. You get so frustrated, right? And again, it was like, didn't I go through the trial that you wanted me to go through? Didn't I learn what I needed to learn?
So you did think that that cancer was the trial?
Yeah, I did. I really did.
When I was prepping the episode, I'm looking at what happened, and I'm like, maybe at 18, after I got cancer at 10, I would have thought that that's my life trial. I passed it. Alhamdulillah. Okay, I don't have power in the right side of my body, but okay, we'll live with it, whatever. And so you did think that also.
I did, and I was like, Ya Rab, like, you know what I mean?
Why?
Like why?
Did you ask why?
Like, I mean, I'd question, and the thing is we learn is you never question, right? But I mean, I was in a position where I was like, why?
Yeah, you wanted answers, technically.
Until I seen a woman with no limbs. I was so frustrated and angry, you know what I mean? And just like trying to, like pick myself back up. I mean, I went from being in a wheelchair to a walker to a cane to only the like, it's like this like huge brace that wrapped around it. Like now, alhamdulillah, I just have like, this brace, but I had a brace before the accident from the cancer anyway, So like, so when I was doing the therapy, I met a woman and she had no limbs, and there was a lot of people in that unit that either had no arms or no legs, but this woman had no limbs. And she was sharing her story with me.
What happened to her?
She didn't have insurance, and she got sick. She got bronchitis. And she was like, I go to the hospital, I have to pay. I'm going to get a bill that I can't pay for. I'll eventually get better at home. Eventually, the tips of her fingers and her toes turned blue. There was no blood circulation. I don't know if it was bronchitis or, but whatever. She got sick. And eventually, when they were like, okay, you have to call the ambulance, they were like, there's no blood flow. We need to amputate. So she had no arms and no legs. And I thought about it and I was like, alhamdulillah. Yeah, I'm in a position that I wouldn't want to be in, but I'm in a position that's so much better than others. And I think that like kind of like flipped the switch where it's like, yeah, everybody goes through struggles. Yes, everybody has their own hardships. But I kid you not, you can count so many more blessings that you have rather than the hardships. And sometimes those hardships, it's a blessing in disguise. Sometimes those hardships, it's not that, oh, I did something, you know what I mean? Like, I deserve this. Like, it's like, sometimes certain doors are closed, okay, to open others, you know? And we don't know what's in that door, but he does, you know? And sometimes for your best, I'm going to close that door, okay? And then I'm going to open that one for you. Because in that door, it's so much better than that. And it can't even be something bad. Sometimes it's something good. But over there's something even better than through here, you know? So
like you think that maybe without the accident and the cancer, it would have been good. But what he has is even better than that.
I know that he knows what's best for me and what's, you know, and sometimes it takes you to go through hardships to kind of like, it changes your perspective. It really does. And I'll tell you, my perspective changed even more after the accident than it did after the cancer. So it did change my perspective, absolutely, after the cancer. But after the accident, it did even more. Like, alhamdulillah for everything. And sometimes it is frustrating, you know, and you have to deal with that. But if you sit and you complain about all the things you don't have, you know, or sometimes not having those things is actually better for you.
Yeah.
You know, having everything isn't the best. You know, sometimes you not having something. Also, the time too. Sometimes if you want something, it's going to be given to you, but not right now, later on. And sometimes that only makes you better at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you kind of like have to spend more time on it, right? Or, you know, try harder. You know what I mean? Or go through, I mean, like, you know, like all these famous people and everything, like, you know, they didn't become like, you know, accomplishments, enough, like, but you know what I mean? They didn't become just, oh, I woke up today and I'm, you know, I'm here now. Like, it took time and it took effort.
Of course. It really sounds to me like after the accident, it's kind of your brain is wired to look for positivity and to look for a positive outcome, because someone reading the article that I read before we started talking, it would be like, this is so negative. Like, her pancreas was outside of her body. Like, she had cancer. Like, it's very negative. Talking to you, it's only positive. Like, you still really, other than you describing like the physical impairment that you're feeling at the moment, there was not one negative comment about the situation. So it's kind of, you're wired into looking at things the positive way, if that makes sense. And I think that's very inspiring, you know, like you looking at the woman with no limbs and saying, alhamdulillah, like, my situation is way better. That's very inspiring. It makes you look at the problems that we have in our life and say, like, we really don't have problems. Absolutely.
And like, there's this quote that says, a man cried he had no shoes until he saw a man with no feet, right? At the end of the day, alhamdulillah, I have feet. It's okay if I don't have shoes. I have feet. I can walk on them. So I think that's the thing that really like resonated. And And listen, I mean, like, it took years for me to become, who I am today. It wasn't like, oh, I'm this, like, just took a day and I'm just all good now. Like,
Yeah.
it took, and trust me, days I'm frustrated, I'm sad, and but at the end of the day, I say, you know what, we all deserve, to cry and let things out. A good
Do you
friend,
have those days where
yeah,
where you
absolutely.
cry and
A good friend of mine told me the earth cries too when it rains.
Mm.
But what happens after it rains? A rainbow sometimes. And subhanallah, this year I saw it literally. I was like, wow, like, how beautiful. Like, yeah, it was raining, and it's annoying when it rains and you gotta get all wet when you're, walking outside. But then, like, look what came up after it. Beautiful rays of, of color and light in the sky. So everyone deserves, it's not like everyone always has to be strong and, you have to always be this positive outlook. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be frustrated, but it's at the end of the day, after you cry and after your frustration and after, complaining or whatever, what are you going to do now? Am I going to continue to do so? Am I going to sit in the corner and continue to cry and depressed and why me and why not this? No, I'm going to wipe my tears and I'm going to say, regardless of whatever situation it is, how can I make it better?
yeah.
I used to look at it as like, they say, look at the glass as half full rather than half empty. But what if the glass is empty? What do you do there? It's not halfway. It's okay. The glass is still there. It's still intact. It's not broken.
So whatever the situation, you always look for the positive.
Always. You always have to look at the positive outlook, because it's so easy to pick the negatives.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's also easy to pick the positives.
You just
But
have
like,
to
we're just
change the
wired that
perspective.
way. You just
Yeah.
have to change your perspective. You have to look at it as like, okay, all these negatives, but there's something positive at the end.
One of the positive things I feel like in situations like this is you really feel the love of the people around you. How was that? Like, the reaction from your friends and family? Like, how did it feel to receive all that love?
So, they say, like, you end up knowing a person's true color at the best of times and at the worst of times, right? And unfortunately, I've seen that in others. But alhamdulillah, I can't even count them on my fingers, because the amount of support I had from my family as friends, ni'mah min Allah. Because especially when you're a kid, when you're a child, having that support team helps you. It's not just like being someone there to help you physically, just someone being there for you, right? So my friends, my relatives, they were all there for me. They treated me as me and not this like weird, like, weakling, you know what I mean? Sitting in like, and so having...
They didn't treat you like Sahar has a disability.
Yeah, they treat me as Sahar. And that's what I loved. And also, they were like, they'd check up on me. They'd make sure everything's okay. You know what I mean? And I didn't want, like, I was at the Ann Arbor hospital after the accident. I didn't want anyone to go to Ann Arbor. I didn't want anyone to drive there. Please don't come. People would show up. People would come and see me, and like classmates. And it's like, wow, like you
really feel the love.
Yeah, you feel the love, and it also makes you think differently of them. It's like they took, like, they did all that, So it is a blessing to have those loved ones,
Absolutely.
around you.
Sahar, I look at bad days or like bad thoughts as I call it the devil. That's literally the devil whispering in your ear to let you down. When does the devil come to you, if you want? When do you find yourself having these bad thoughts and like, khalas, I'm sick and tired of this,
It's when I try to do something and I can't do it. That's the majority of the times. I get so frustrated because I'm like, or when something, like, I learned patience, and Allahumma as-sabirin, So I've learned how, sometimes it's going to take me longer, but it's okay. But sometimes it takes so much longer and I just can't do it. And I get really frustrated, right? And sometimes it's the simplest things. Like, you can probably do it in 2 seconds. Me, You know what I mean? It took 20 minutes when it could have taken me 2 seconds, but, you know, and I just get like frustrated and riled up, you know, at that times. But after I get frustrated and riled up, I try to like,
Calm
you know,
yourself down.
like calm down, relax. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It is what it is. Like, you know, so obviously there's bigger things than others. You know what I mean? Like when the car accident happened, it was, you know, was a big change for me rather than when I'm trying to connect my charger. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, of course.
So,
I think you have a very beautiful relationship with God, because when something like this happens and it's this hard, I always wonder, like, who are the people that maybe look at it and be like, oh no, this is better for me. And I honestly didn't know how you thought about this until we're having this conversation. But it's like, who's going to look at the situation and be like, oh, this is better for me, God knows what's best? And who's going to be look at the situation and be like, no, God did this to me, and now my life isn't the way it's supposed to because of the things that happened.
it's the same person.
Yeah.
The same person can do both.
How did you find the evolution of that relationship happen?
The outlook. Look at the big picture. So I know we didn't talk yet about the photography, but something that I realized in photography is that each lens will show you something, right?
Right.
So I love saying I see the world through a different lens, and I really do, because there's one lens that will only, you know, frame
show you this much.
Yeah, and then there's a other lens that will show you
everything
this much. And there's one lens that will show you this much. When you zoom in, it's very grainy.
Right.
And then there's another one that will show you this much. And when you zoom in, it's still, you know, crisp.
I never thought about it like that.
It's, you know, like a beautiful photo.
Yeah.
Okay. And sometimes too, not only the photo itself, where to get to that photo, right?
Yeah.
The composition of the photo. Okay. If I'm going to take a picture of the sky when I'm down there on the main ground, it's going to be a lot different than I'm going to go and hike up that mountain, maybe struggle a little bit, and then get the picture from there, right?
Wow.
So you have to have that outlook, okay? So having that outlook and literally physically seeing that, it opens your eyes.
You saw that translate into your own life.
Yeah, and I seen it, and I saw it translate into my, like, it's so weird because like I feel like the work and life like merged together essentially.
And is that part of the reason why you got into photography?
So yes and no. So I love photography since I was 10. I used to mess with my cousin's camera. I loved it so much.
Yeah.
It wasn't so it was and I was like 10. It was even before the accident. And I used to, you know, nothing professional, nothing, you know, anything like that. But so as the years went by, I'd, you know, upgrade on my camera. I forgot the Rebel was my first camera. And that was right when I got out of the hospital after the car accident.
I think this was the Rebel too, the one I just showed you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so it's like the baby one, you know, the kit with the lenses and everything like that. And then, so I started with that one, and it was just fun, taking pictures of stuff, families, friends. And again, as the years went up, I think I got a 6D or something like that.
So you knew that's what you wanted to do?
No. So I know, backtrack on, I wanted to do, I was studying biology.
Yeah.
Okay. After the accident, I hated the system.
You hated the hospital?
I hated the system. When I was a kid, they hide a lot of things from you. Yeah. When you're an adult, you see it all. And it used to frustrate me because it's like, why do you want to give me always medications? Okay, you're asking me what's your pain level. I'm telling you my pain level. Okay, higher the dose. Give her more of that. Why? Like, I want to heal myself, not tell my body, there's no pain, you're fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want to find a way to heal myself, right? Not rely on medications. You found yourself
given medications a lot?
So it's just how it is. You're always on. They give you. It's not like me. I asked for it.
Yeah.
I would just always be on it. And also, the fact that not the human body is all like wired the same, but not everybody's body works like the same as everyone else's, right? And this is something that frustrated me about that too. So what happened was, Remember I told you I needed a shunt to keep the pancreas together until
Correct.
it formed. And subhanallah, the motherly like instinct. My mom told them, you guys got to replace the shunt. So they replaced it every now and then. And they're like, oh no, she's fine. She's fine. Replace it. They were admitting me out of the hospital anyway. Okay. Isn't it better to just replace it now and just admit her? No, she's fine. She's fine. I got admitted. I still had nurses coming to my house to check on me and stuff like that. That day, my cousin, I remember, showed me, you looked so off. Like, I was more like, like I was just very quiet. I didn't want to talk. I had no energy. When the nurse came, he told my mom her heart fell into her stomach. That's what his was. Why? Because my stomach was pulsating, but if you put it near, like, the stethoscope near my heart, he couldn't hear. He couldn't find a beat.
Your heart.
That's what he said, but that wasn't the case. I thought the man was crazy, to be honest. I was like, I'm fine, relax. He was like, call the ambulance. Okay, the ambulance came. Okay, the ambulance told my dad, pick up your daughter and take her to Ann Arbor. Okay, because we don't live in Ann Arbor, so it's like, like the ambulance is not gonna come from there. It's gonna come from the closest hospital to your house. He told me to pick up your daughter and take her to Ann Arbor. So my dad took me in the car. We went to Ann Arbor. I was like, nothing's wrong with me. I was just tired that day. Everything. They ended up finding out that I was sepsis.
What does that mean?
It means that basically organ failure, I believe. So what happened was the pancreas, the shunt, it's no longer holding the pancreas together. The pancreas separated. All the fluid that's in the pancreas, it comes out, and it's literally like burning through the organ walls, essentially. Okay, and then that put me back in the hospital again after my initial stay. Why?
Because they just didn't change it.
Because they didn't change it. And what frustrated me is like, and like, haram, it's not the doctors themselves, it's just the system.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
How it is.
It's just how the system is. And I didn't like it at all. So when I went back to school, I changed my curriculum.
Okay.
So I was like, I'm not doing bio. I don't want to do this anymore. I ended up doing digital marketing. So it's way separate. Yeah. I liked, level of creativity and stuff like that. And I didn't want to go to creative school or anything. I was already 2 years in. So I changed it. And I was taking basically like business classes and marketing and some creative classes too. And also understanding the screen, right? So I also took some of those classes too.
How long does it take you to start thinking about the future anyways, after an accident like that?
When you have time to think, you really do think.
Okay.
It's, again, patience, right?
Yeah.
So I can give you a paper, I can give you a picture that I took, right? And I can be like, in 30 seconds, what can you tell me out of it? Okay? Versus if I tell you, in 30 minutes, what can you tell me out of it?
Yeah.
You're going to tell me a lot more in 30 minutes than you did in 30 seconds, right? And it's just because, you
just
it's
have time to think.
You have time. And I know sometimes, you just want to, come on, let's get things going.
Did it feel good getting back into real life?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Like thinking about school, going to campus.
Yeah, just going back and going on campus.
Feeling normal.
Feeling normal. I mean, like, I wasn't really normal because I was on campus. I was in a wheelchair. But, like, it's just like, it feels like you're getting close to where you were before the big problem.
Yeah.
So
you start taking these classes.
Yeah, so I start taking these classes, and I did take a couple photography classes too. And again, it was nothing professional. It was just, I love doing it. I just thought I want a more like sustainable job. So I, studied digital marketing and graduated. I'm working in the marketing field, and then COVID happened. COVID happened again. You have more time to yourself, essentially, right? I was still working, but like, the outings, the events, even just going to run errands. Like, you have a lot more home time. Yeah. So I'm like, you know what? Let's see if, this can go somewhere. Again, it took a lot for me to like, it wasn't easy to start this. I was like, no one's going to love my photos, and I talked about this with my friends and my family multiple times, right?
especially in the creative field, at the beginning, it's always like, no, my work isn't good. This picture isn't good. You're always
Yeah.
not satisfied with your work.
Absolutely. And also it's art's perspective, right? So you might love it, but he might hate it. You know what I mean? So it's not 2 + 2 = 4, where there's just one answer and one answer only. So what's it
So you
called?
negotiated with, you talked about it with your friends and family.
Yeah. And again, some people were like, you taking photos? How? You can't take photos with one hand.
And then go back to,
And then the drive.
Yep.
The drive kicks in. And you're like, I want to go on turbocharge. And it's like that, the negative words, whoever it may be, whoever comes and tells you negativity, change that to positive. You can change anything. Change those negative words, right? And even though it comes out negative, the other end is gonna be something beautiful. Watch and see. So obviously, it took me a lot, though. Honestly, in the beginning, it just like that, like affirmation, that like, am I good enough for this? Like, I've been doing this, messing with a camera for years, but nothing professional. It's just family, friends, just whatever.
Just for fun.
Just for fun, exactly. And I had some very supportive, again, friends and family who were like, come do my photos, and they are like beautiful work. And it started
Building a little by little.
building that up. Yeah. So what, COVID was 2020, so
Yeah.
since then, so this would be my 4th year
Professionally.
yeah, professionally. I love it. I love capturing those moments. And subhanallah, it's like, it kind of like, again, like related to
To your
the viewpoint of things and the mindset of, it's like, you see the world through a different lens. And
and you took that and embodied it physically, like you're
Yeah.
actually getting lenses in the camera.
yeah, exactly. And it's like, I don't know, I just alhamdulillah, I love doing it. I'm still working in my marketing job. I like, I like them both, honestly. I like my marketing job too, so it's not like I hate it or
Yeah.
anything like that. But
Sahar, if I would ask you, what are your aspirations now? Like, now you went through all this, let's call them challenges, and you sit down and you are like, what is my wildest dream? Like, if your life will play out exactly how you want it to play out, what does that look like?
nothing like, I still want to, grow within my photography. I just being able to see kind of like a bigger outlook. You know what I mean? I feel like there's always room to grow in every avenue. Nobody's perfect. And I just want to grow within this field and grow also within like the viewpoint of everything, of like, having contentment is a gift, right? Being content with everything. And we're humans at the end of the day, you know what I mean? So it's like, there's always, something, but just gaining that, having a better relationship with God, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not perfect, you know what I mean? Again, so I just want to, grow within that. There's nothing like crazy that like, I want to be the president or anything like that.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like I feel like I've done something to this world, if this makes any sense. I feel like I've given back to it. So I feel like everyone should have a purpose, and you don't have to, end world hunger, to have a purpose. It can be
Right.
the smallest thing. So through my years, I feel like that's what I really wanted to do, and just have a purpose in this world to
Have
help
you found
others.
it?
I think I have, but I just want to do better at it. You know what I
Okay.
mean? I just want to continue to grow within it. Find ways to help others, find ways.
So it's still that Sahar early on in her teens where she just wanted to give back.
Yeah, and I still do, because like sometimes when I tell someone something, you know, like so they ask me a question, I tell them, they're like, oh my God, I was complaining about this, like, you know, like you went through that, and it's like I don't want, everyone has their own problems, right? And I want to kind of like tell people that it's okay if you have your problem. Your problem is your biggest problem, right? So to you, that's the biggest thing you got to worry about.
Right.
To someone else, they have their own set of problems. They have their own, you know, set of like trials and tribulations. But I just want to kind of like be there to the kind of like the voice of like, it's okay.
Yeah, to ease the way.
Yeah, it's okay. But there's ways that like you can make things, there's always a way to make things better, right? Whether like, and it doesn't have to be, and I'm never saying like, oh, yell at someone, like you're fine. Like, no,
Yeah.
just like sitting, reflecting, having that different outlook, having that different perspective, right? Like just sitting and like, you know, reflecting upon what you've endured and what you know, account. And it's like, okay, I've experienced this, but what can we make this, how can we make this something better, right? How can we look at it and take the good rather than the bad? Because it's really, really easy to say all these bad things, okay? But let's like, you know, change it.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
The two things that you went through are pretty scary. So if I ask you like what scares you right now, like if you're thinking about like what's something that's actually gonna make me fearful, what is that?
Getting worse, honestly, like health wise and stuff like that. So inshallah the cancer, you know, never comes back.
Inshallah.
And inshallah, you know, I don't, you know, get like worse. It's just like like getting worse, like health wise.
Yeah. Do you think about that a lot?
I try not to. I do think about it, especially when things don't, you know, look right, you know what I mean, or anything like that.
Is it now towards to where like anything happening like that's a little off, you get like nervous, like, oh, is this something I should be worried of, or like?
Not necessarily. It's just how can we make the best out of it, essentially? Because like, okay, let's be honest, right? People get old and with 100% no problems at all with your body, and you know, things start to change, you know what I mean? So it's like your body can't do what you can at the age of 20 versus the age of 70, right? So kind of like trying to adapt to that, you know what I mean? Since like obviously, inshallah, you know, when I get older, the body is not going to be like it's supposed to be. So just, you know.
I see what you're saying. And I just thought about this right now. You see those the Neuralink chips that Elon Musk is working on? He wants to implant them, and then people with that can't really move their arm. Would you ever think about trying something like that?
I don't know. The thing is, I'm very hesitant on trying things new like that. So
what do you think about the idea, though?
I mean, listen, any idea where it's going to help others, that's great. The only thing with me is that like I'm not the type that like, oh, there's like this brand new thing, go and try it. Like I have to wait a little bit and see the outcome before I go and I try.
But you're not
it.
against it.
It's not that I'm not neutral. Like it's not like something I'm thinking of, and it's not like I think whatever works best for others, you do you kind of thing. So I'm not gonna be like yelling at someone, you know, like you do you, but for me, I'm fine where I am right now.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Well, Sahar, this was very inspiring, to be honest with you. Like, I can't imagine someone listens to this and thinks, first of all, from the hardship that you went through and from your attitude after the hardship that you went through, can look at any problem in life and say, man, this is too much. It's impossible. Like it's like living proof, as you say. And the crazy thing about the stuff that you're talking about, it's like maybe you see a car flip in a movie and you're like, oh yeah, but it's just a movie. Or maybe you see it on the news and you're like, oh, this only happens like this won't happen to me. Like my car won't flip like that. Or my 10-year-old won't have brain cancer. Like, how rare is it for a 10-year-old to have like brain tumor? And then you see that, no, this stuff does happen, and it happened to me.
Yeah, it's like when you look at like probability, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it's probability. The chance of that happening is very few, but it can happen. And just like having that, no one knows, right, the day that they're gonna come to this world, and no one knows the last day either, right? I can't say like, oh, I'm gonna choose this date. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't work like that. So I feel like wake up every day, okay? And first of all, be thankful for what you have. I know you wake up, right? You can breathe, you can see, you can hear, you can get up, you can speak, right? But these things, I know it's like normal, but these are gifts too, right? So cherish them.
Yeah.
Because I tell you, I someone once said, like, do you ever like wish you were back at a certain day, and why? I said, yeah. I wish I was when I had full function of my body, and to cherish that moment, right? Because I never knew that this will be my last, right? So cherish these moments, cherish the people you love around you, cherish the gifts that God has given you, right? And if you want something, thrive. Don't let anybody come and stop you from pursuing your dreams. Don't let anybody come and hold you back, right? If this is something good, right? And you believe, okay, it might take some time, it might take some, some effort. It's okay. Go and do it. If it's something you love, go and do it. And don't let anyone stop you, from doing that. And just like having still that positive outlook of like, we can always see the negatives, or we can see all of the positives, right? So continue with that also, that viewpoint.
If you can go back to 10-year-old Sahar, what would you tell her?
I would tell her, I know that right now, like if it's, past the cancer, I know right now it's hard, but you're going to have so much more potential, and you're going to do so many more beautiful things as the years go by. So stay strong and continue thriving.
Would you have told the 20-year-old Sahar not to get in that car to Ann Arbor that day?
That one, no, I wouldn't say don't go.
You wouldn't tell her, no, don't get in the car?
Because, it took a long time for me to finally like accept this, and every year, alhamdulillah, it's a better year. But last year specifically was, I feel like, a really big year for me, and like kind of like the realization of everything. But everything happens for a reason. Everything that happens in this world is for a reason.
Did you kind of find that reason last year?
Not necessarily last year, but I feel like I've accepted it even more than before. So I feel like if you're not doing something, if the intention isn't bad, right? So it's not like I want to harm someone, or I want to do, you know what I mean? Be mean to someone, or say something rude to somebody, right? If your intention, right, is not a bad intention, right? And you're just doing something, that's fine. And then, God throws something in front of you. I say it's okay, and I'm capable, and I'm able to accept it, because I know that He knows what's best for me.
So you know that
hard as it is.
Yeah. So you know that it happened for a reason. You wouldn't want to change it.
Absolutely, because what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And again, this world is a test,
and
right?
It didn't kill you. So
it didn't kill
here.
me, exactly. I'm still here, so I can't complain on that part. And it's a test. This whole world is a test. It's trials and tribulations, and seeing what are you gonna do. And I know they say God chooses his strongest soldiers, and I'm proud of that. Yeah. I'm proud to be. I'm not trying to but I am proud that He chose me, because having that fulfillment that you did this, it makes you
went through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man.
So
Thank you so much, Sahar.
Yes,
This was very
alhamdulillah for
nice.
everything.
Thank you.
Absolutely.